Hi everyone, I'm Paul Webb from Joblogic. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to look at how you can embed safer, more consistent working practices across your operations using our Joblogic Risk Assessment Management System module. Now, when you say all that mouthful, is it any wonder we have so many acronyms in the industry as we all work with? Now, to be clear, in this session, our focus is on how structured, job-linked risk assessments can strengthen safety culture, reduce incidents, and give you an audit-ready evidence as part of everyday work, not as an afterthought. We'll spend this session exploring how RAMS integrates into the way your teams already work. And I mean from planning a job in the back office through to engineers completing assessments on site. And finally, how your customers gain visibility through the portal. Most risk assessment failures aren't about people ignoring safety in the main. They come from broken workflows. Now, the common issues we see are things such as paper assessments going missing or being uploaded days later, generic templates that don't match the job or trade, subcontractors working without the right version of the assessment, no enforced sign-off, meaning jobs start before the risk is even understood. Risk assessments stored in isolated folders rather than where the job lives. I mean, if all this sounds familiar to you guys, then obviously, it's why you're here. But what these do is these create real consequences, missed hazards, inconsistent practice across engineers and compliance gap that cause contractor or audit issues. This is why Joblogic embeds them directly into the job lifecycle, into your workflow, to make safety part of the workflow, not a bolt-on or box-ticking exercise at the end. Best practice, as it should be, really. So for those of you that are new to the marketplace or don't have any apps yet from the marketplace, obviously on your Joblogic menu, we'll scroll down to the marketplace here, and it'll show the list of your subscribed apps. Now, of course, you won't have the RAMS just yet. So all you need to do is click on Explore More and then give it a quick search. So let's just type RAMS inside the search there, straight up. Click on the RAMS, gives you a nice little breakdown, nice little overview of what the actual app does. And then you can click on Open the app itself. So guys, what you can see now, what you're looking at is the RAMS app. I've got my menu on the left-hand side and obviously standard Joblogic searches and the expecting our system. In the back office, everything starts with templates. Now, this is where, guys, you can create structured, repeatable assessments. Okay, so I'm talking about building templates for high-risk activities, specific trades, particular contracts. You can add hazards and control measures and severity scorings, include method elements where required, and of course use version control so you're always working from the most up-to-date document. This standardizes your approach so every engineer, regardless of experience, works from the same best practice guidance. Now, adding a new risk assessment. When you click on Add New Risk Assessment here, you can define work types, guys. You can add tasks, you can add hazards, you can build and bring in, obviously, your risk matrix. And we could sit here and I could build one for you and it all look nice, but I think what I'm going to do is show you one that I prepared earlier. So I'm just going to search for a roof in here. And I'm going to open my roof access hatch inside here. Now, what you can see is I've given it a nice description. I've put my work type in. I've added my tasks. And then you can see down here, this is the key for me. I've built in my matrix. So I've given it the hazard, and then I've given it its risk and its severity and likelihood score inside here. And then I've got my control measures as well with the residual risk and the severity and likelihood scores also. Down the bottom continues another set to this actual template, another set of questions. I'm going to talk about weather conditions and again, putting my risk, severity and likelihood score in. and of course my control measures there. So it literally is as simple as setting up this template and giving it the scoring mechanism that you want. Okay, let's close that back and go back to the actual matrix itself. So this visual matrix shows how likely something is to be happening compared to how severe the outcome would be. Now, it's designed to help teams make decisions about control and before they start the job. So you can see here you've got the scoring matrix or the scoring grid, and that's going to allow you to set the correct score based on that severity and that likelihood. Okay? So guys, once you've got those templates set up, you have your title, you have your work types, and you have your tasks, and obviously the hazards, and give it that risk, severity, and likelihood scoring. It's then all about setting up the rules. Now, of course, on the menu on the left-hand side here, you'll see we have a rules menu, and inside there, you can see that we've got a set of rules already pre-built. For example, I've got generic risk assessment here, and I can tell you, and you can see on the screen, I've got it set to a particular set of trades. I've got my 3 job types, and I've got it showing on arrival. So I am dictating how this risk assessment appears, how it gets used, and whether or not it's mandatory, whether or not the engineer must acknowledge it. So it removes the reliance on memory or guessing, and safety becomes a non-negotiable part of the workflow, guys. It's mandatory, as it should be. Okay, so use this rules engine once you built your template. Use the rules engine to define how these are going to work for you. So guys, we've set up our templates. You've then decided the rules on which your risk assessments will act, how they're going to be governed, whether they're mandatory or not, what job types they're linked to, what trade. So again, you're controlling this. Now, obviously, after this, there wouldn't be a good risk assessment module if it didn't have a full-blown audit trail. Every edit, every signature, every approval is logged. Now, what this gives you guys is a clean audit trail aligned with sort of ISO style expectations, if you like. So for customers, for regulators, for insurers, this proves that the work was planned and it was carried out safely using controlled documentation. Now, what I can do is obviously you can see a list in here of some of our examples. Again, standard Joblogic menus, guys, down the bottom, show results on the page, searches on the top. But if I just download this one, obviously this is just a generic bland sort of template in our system, and you can see it's come back with the risk and severity, and of course we'll have signatures and so on there as well. So 3 items on the menu there. We've got our templates, which is where you build and you determine your scoring matrix, and obviously the questions, the hazards, and so on. We have our rules, which is you guys governing how these work, what job type, what class, what trade, and when to show it and when not to show it, and so on. And then your full-blown audit trail, guys, so everything is kept in one particular area. Okay, guys, I think now's a good time to bring the mobile application into view, so to speak. I think it's fair to just take a look at what the engineers out on the road actually see with this RAMS. So what you can see now is I'll share my mobile screen and just show you the Joblogic app, which you're obviously all familiar with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly arrive on site and show you what my RAMS do. So when I click into my job, now I've arrived on site, you'll see it tells me I have a document to acknowledge prior to accepting this job. So if I go OK, it will open the RAMS document for me, and I can either view it using the eye and see all the detail here, and obviously everything we just spoke around with the matrix and so on. So I can read all my conditions as an engineer, see my job visit and visit ID at the top, and then I can simply hit acknowledge at the bottom there. And if I want, I can actually then download a copy for myself, and that's now saved into my phone. So this will remain now, and obviously these RAMs, we can send multiple for multiple jobs. So the RAMs app itself is something that the guys have to download off the Play Store or obviously the App Store if it's iOS. And what happens is you can't run it on its own. It's like a bolt into the mobile, so you have to be using the mobile to go into that RAMs app. But that's as straightforward as it is for the engineers with the risk assessment management on there. It still doesn't affect anything to do with your forms on the job, and they're still held in your forms logbook, and obviously you guys can still set up risk assessments for safety and so on around the job or the asset, the site, etc., just as you have been doing. But yeah, just thought it was worth just showing you how, based on the rules that we put in, and I force them to acknowledge the actual RAM document certificate on site before they could even go into this job. So it's another kind of safety mechanism that you can force, sort of best practice habits, if you like. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Okay guys, look, let me talk to you about a real example of a customer using this. A national FM customer recently switched from email PDFs to our Joblogic risk assessment management system. They saw two immediate improvements: clearly fewer missed assessments and far stronger audit performance. When a safety audit came up recently, they could show complete audit histories per job, per engineer, per assessment in seconds. No SharePoint searching, no other systems, no WhatsApp, nothing. And that's the power of having them embedded directly into your workflow, rather than floating around as an attachment or a paperwork or an afterthought. There's one last part to this, of course, which is how your customer gets access to all these lovely things that you've built, all this compliance that you've enforced, all this safety that you've enforced, and the digital forms, of course. Now, that's through our customer portal. Now, what you'll find is in your portal, and if I just open mine on the screen here now, which I have ready, your clients can view the risk assessments linked to their jobs. So they can download the PDFs, they can see timestamps, signatures, and of course, a full risk record. This level of transparency builds trust. It reduces that back and forth, removes disputes, and demonstrates compliance as part of your service delivery, guys. Now, just quickly, just to show you this, by going to the job that we were playing with, inside my portal, forgive me if you don't use the portal, but I'm sure there's another webinar on that. Inside the menu here, you'll see your RAMs, and this is the view your customers will get. And if I click on that, you'll see I've got a couple of RAMs here. This is a generic, the one that we looked at. And again, it's ready for your customer to download as a PDF. Okay guys, so you've heard me talk about best practice, and these are kind of a few best practices we encourage. Now, predefine risk templates per trade or per contract. Use mandatory RAM sign-off for any high-risk job type. Make it mandatory. Review your RAMs library quarterly to keep it relevant and up-to-date. Use the dashboards and notifications to stay ahead of overdue or incomplete assessments. Encourage shared ownership between operations, compliance, and your engineers team. And these steps help create a consistent, proactive safety culture. So to round up, guys, risk assessment management in Joblogic is designed to make safety routine and reliable. It strengthens compliance, it standardizes how your team works, and makes audits and approvals so much smoother than having multiple silos. If you'd like help setting up the templates or linking them to your workflows, our customer success team and of course our learning hub are ready to support you. Thanks for joining me again, guys, and here's to safer work, clearer records, and of course smoother operations. Thanks again, guys.